winds, you'll find you're aligned with calm instead of strengths you've always known.
Hello, my name is Cody Payton. This is my second video. When I was little, I went to church, but I didn't grow up in a real Christian environment. I went and played on the streets with kids that weren't doing the right thing, doing drugs, playing basketball. This was all when I was little, at around the age of 8 when I started doing all this. And the first person that really came up to me about Christ was my mom. She helped me out through a couple things when I was little. And I listened to her, but it didn't really affect me then because I was so little. But a few years later, my brother got jumped, and then he ended up coming back home. Police was called, and everything that happened, and nothing really. And a year later, nothing happened. Just we didn't pray to God. Nothing was solved out of this problem. And so I really extended from God because my brother was hurt very badly, and then I really didn't have him in my life. And when about another year later, my friend DeQuandre, he got jumped also, and then he came back and to my house straight after it happened. He didn't call nobody, nothing else. He came straight to my house, and we talked about it and everything that happened, and we prayed and ended up with a good result. He went through the thing, and now the people that jumped him are his teammates in football. And he's an All-American football player as a high school freshman. Everything's going good. But see, me growing up, I was a little white kid hanging out in the streets with all the black kids, no racism. But we was just doing things that we weren't supposed to be doing. I remember one time we was out at night, and it was about 10:30 at night. We was crossing the street in the summer, and my friend, he noticed there was a cop car. And the cop ended up chasing us, and we just ran back to my friend's house, and then we ended up going back home to my house where everybody was staying at that night. And that was just hard, knowing that I was chased. And during that time period, I had people dying in my life. I had my friend, first friend I lost was Lamani, and then I lost my friend Ralph, and then lost my friend Jeremiah, and then lost about 12 more people. And it was just hard on me. And going through all that was just hard. And then my 8th grade year, I went to a public school. I grew up in public school, and then I was hanging out with people and playing basketball still in the streets. And I was gonna go to multiple different high schools that I did not decide to go yet. And then when the end of the school year ended, I ended up seeing Evan posting stuff on Instagram, and I ended up talking to him. And then I ended up coming here on a visit, and I seen my 6th grade coach, my first ever coach at Kingston High School, Coach Brickhouse. He was just new here, new head coach. And when I seen that, I thought that was really good for me. And I seen a couple more kids in. I was told he was bringing in more kids. And I just started coming here and playing. But I really think God brought me here to get me out of the environment I was in. to help me through life. During that time, I wasn't really near God, but the first time I really felt God in my presence was the first spiritual infants week we had here, and he just really connected with me then, and it was great. But going throughout my life, it was just a hard time, and it was just hard things, and God's still with me to this day, and I know that I can trust him to do whatever he needs to do in my life, and everything happens because he wants it to happen, you know? And that's what everybody's got to do, trust God, and everything will go right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Riley, if you didn't know me, and I'm going to be sharing my testimony with you guys. My story starts out typical Christian person. Grew up in church, did all church stuff. Parents were Christians, forced to go to church all the time. You know. I went to public school all my life, and I got wrapped up in some pretty bad stuff. Not like hardcore drugs, but it was bad stuff that I didn't need to be in. And during that time, I just got a lot of hatred and bitterness toward people. I hated everyone, even if you didn't know it. But what really, I guess, in 7th grade, my parents took me out of public school and they forced me to go to Hampton Christian because they were like, you're gonna get in bad things. And they were right, so they were right. But when I came here, I hated it here. I was like, why? Out of all the places, why here? But what really, I guess, made me hate God with a burning passion, because before I was filled with bitterness and hatred, but it wasn't extreme. But in 8th grade, my grandpa got sick with cancer, and you know, I was like, God, I was just praying for him to be healed and stuff. And when he died, it broke me. I was like, why would you not answer me, even though I didn't have a relationship with him really, so. But I was still calling out to him and desperate. So after that, my heart just became filled with hate. There was nothing you could say to me that would change my mind about God. I was like, I hate him. Like, oh well. But I think the same week that I turned my life around toward God, I literally probably wouldn't be here right now if I didn't accept it in my stubbornness. A pastor came in and he led me to Jesus because he basically was like, you either turn your life around and you're gonna die. So I was like, okay, that's a good enough reason. So from then on, not loved Jesus, but I accepted him, and right now I'm working on my love walk, so I get to fall in love with Jesus. And one more thing I wanted to talk about before, I'm almost done, I promise. But I struggled a lot with homosexuality in 3rd to 4th grade, I guess, was when it all happened. I'm not going to go into detail. You guys can just think about it. But I just wanted to mention it because there was a lot of guilt and a lot of other stuff that came with that. And God, I've overcome it because of Jesus and stuff now, but during that time it was very hard on me. And I just wanted to put that in this video because some of you guys might be going through it, and so if you guys want to talk to me or talk to somebody else about it, that's cool, but I'm here if you want to. So there's my testimony. I'm done.
I'm looking back on my life as a Christian, from a Christian perspective, I've seen that I've been blessed in many ways. I was born 1 pound 8 ounces. I could fit in the palm of your hand. I was a preemie. I wasn't supposed to make it, and they say if I did make it, I suffered with mental retardation, and I had a lot of deformities. And luckily, as you see, I'm here breathing and in healthy form. And I just like to say that the Lord has been very good to me and has shown me His favor and mercy in a lot of situations. He has blessed me with a great family that's dedicated to my not only spiritual growth, but academic growth and just growth as a person. And He's also surrounded me with people during different times of my life that I needed spiritually, that if I wasn't always in a Christian environment, that I'd be around positive people. And it has given me the mindset to, forego things that aren't positive in my life and that have kept me alive and out of the streets today. A little bit about me when I was younger. As I said, I was a preemie. Wasn't supposed to make it. My grandmother prayed over me every day. I believe that really helped, in the process of me growing. And since that day that she's been praying, she's always instilled in me to pray. And I think that's always something I do, on an everyday basis, to try to, further that relationship with God and just talk to Him twice a day. And I haven't had really too many struggles in my life. My life hasn't been, I can't say it's been hard or difficult, because I'd be lying. Because, my grandparents have, had their share of financial gain, and I have benefited from that. And so, what I can say is that I've had a couple of turbulent events to shape my life. As my grandfather getting cancer, that was a hard time in my life because I was sad. This is before my walk was really tight with the Lord. So I was sad, and I cried, but I didn't think about praying. And if I prayed, Lord, I trust you, and whatever happens, happens, because I know it's your will. I was the type of selfish person that'd be like, Lord, I want my grandfather to leave, so please don't take him. And I still can't lie, I'm still like that today. And another event was when he had a stroke recently. That really set me back, and I really didn't pray like I should have. And I was being selfish again, saying, Lord, please keep him here, because my grandfather is a real big figure in my life. He's my idol. He's a guy that I look up to, who actually went from rags to riches, and that's how I want my life to be. So maybe not rags, but just make my way up in life without depending on people and making that way for myself. Another thing that shaped me is developing in Christian environments. I went to a Christian school before this, Hampton Christian Academy, not academy. It was a good time there. That's when I got saved, 3rd grade. And it just helped me to keep my walk stronger and to align myself with people of the same faith and know that there are people I can surround myself with other than, the cliche public school kids. People, kids who are worldly, so to speak. Then I want to talk about summer before I came here. It was a real hard summer for me. I was going to basically quit basketball. I really given up, and I actually got a call from Coach Brickhouse. He was like, coaching, you should come. And I was already looking for a school because I tried to go to HRA, and I was praying about that, and I wanted to go so I get another year of basketball in. And I couldn't get in there. So then that same day that I went for the test, ironically, Coach Brickhouse called me and told me that he was coaching and to see if I could come. So then I talked to my mother, and we were just constantly praying, talking, and hoping. And she was kind of scared, and she kind of didn't want me to do it because she didn't want me to be crushed again after she saw that once I went to HRA, tried to go to HRA, and I didn't get in, and she didn't want me to have that same feeling of disappointment. So the summer was definitely a hard time for me, and I had to really trust God, and I think that built up my relationship going into Hampton Christian. And going into Hampton Christian, like when I first walked in, it was like a whole different atmosphere, and like the people were really genuine. Like the staff, I know that I can go to anyone in the staff and they will help me with any spiritual problem, and I feel like this is one of the best schools I've ever been to. It is the best school I've ever been to. So it's hard for me to talk about struggles because I really haven't had any, except for like other family issues, but otherwise, I can't say life is hard or, give a testimonial that is like super powerful, I guess. But I just want to say that God is good for not like putting me through trials. I know I'll have them in the future, but I'm glad that He's held them off because I don't think I would be prepared right now to deal with a lot of trials to encounter. But something that has really helped me this year is coming to Hampton Christian because, I've been in a Christian-based home and I've been in a Christian school for over 3 years, and it was good, and I got saved there, but when I got to Hampton Christian, it was like a whole new experience where I felt everyone was genuine, and then chapels have really touched me and have helped my walk, and just looking at Mr. Ashworth and the teachers and other staff and just seeing how their Christian walk is, and knowing I can talk to any one of them has really boosted my spirituality. And Hampton Christian has also helped me, academically. I think that's a real powerful step in my walk and just how I am, and it's shaping me to be a good, responsible young man.
My name is Donzel Dunn. I was born on February 14th in Wilmington, North Carolina, and my mom's from Boston, so I went up there from when I was a baby, and then I moved to Virginia when I was 2, and I lived with my grandma, and she stayed in the same apartment complex as my dad, so I would just go back and forth over there, like just to be babysitting for a while, and then I started getting older. I actually just lived with my dad, me and my mom, and I would just always just sit around, play with my toys and all this other stuff. But I had a hearing problem when I was younger, so I would always sit close to the TV and turn it up really loud because I didn't know any better. My dad would come in there and turn the TV down and sit me back on the couch. And then as I got older, 4 or 5, I started playing basketball, and then I just fell in love with it. So I just kept it all the time. Wherever I was, I just had a basketball with me of any size. And then one day, my dad and my mom got in a big argument, and it really messed up our relationship. And he kicked us out. He kicked us out the house. And my mom went to go talk to my grandma, and my grandma, she didn't let us live with her anymore. She wouldn't let us move in with her because her house was full, and we just didn't have anywhere to go. So me and my mom, we just we slept in the car. We just slept in the car. She just she worked really hard while I went to school, and she sacrificed a lot to make sure that I was good and she was good. And then I think it was 2nd grade, we got our own apartment, and I had my own bed, and it just felt so good to have something that that was yours, you own it, it's yours. So it felt really good. And And then we stayed there for a while. She went to work, I went to school, came home. It was just a daily routine until the 4th grade when my mom, she went to jail because she got caught on camera shoplifting. I think it was like a really expensive bed set or something, but she got like a big trouble for it, and I had to move to North Carolina with my dad. And I was really sad about it because my grandma didn't take me in. I really didn't want to move with him. I really wanted to stay with my grandma, but she didn't take me in. So I went to North Carolina, and my dad had a wife, and she had 3 children. And while I was there, I had to start school, and it was just bad. Like when I got home, I always got verbally abused by my stepmom and her daughters, and they were all older than me. So like I just felt trapped, and like I really couldn't do anything about it. So my mom would write me notes, and she would send them to me, and I would just always read them and just start crying because like I really didn't know what was going on, and it like felt weird not to live with my mom knowing that I stayed with her all my life. So I just started to I had to start getting used to it because this was gonna eventually happen. So she got out of jail, I think like 2 years later, and I moved back with her, and it felt so good just to like be back with my mom. So we had to start all over again, from getting a job to me going back to school. We had to stay in the shelter for about 2 months, and then she got her apartment back, and we just went back from there. That's when I really got serious about basketball. I started growing, but that wasn't like really, I wasn't really growing like I was my freshman year. But I actually started playing basketball, and I just worked hard from there. And then 8th grade, I transferred schools. Then the summer of my 8th grade year, I just trained hard all the time. And then some days I would wake up and my knees would hurt really bad. And I was just wondering, maybe I was working too hard and I needed to let my body rest. But as I noticed, I was growing. So I was growing through a growth spurt at that time. And I think this summer, well, going into high school, I grew, I think 6 inches. And then like I thought like I really had the advantage because I was growing, and I was like, man, like this is great. I never thought this would happen to me, and this is rare. So I played JV my freshman year, and like towards the end of the season, I got moved up to varsity, and I really didn't I didn't play that much, and I started to get frustrated because I put in a lot of work. But one thing that I didn't notice was that I had a lot of seniors and juniors that were like upperclassmen, so they got to play more. And then my 10th grade year, I grew some more, and I just worked even harder than I did last year. Then I started playing a little bit more, and then over the summer, my dad called me. It was after a pickup game. My dad called me and he said that my cousin got shot, and I didn't know which one because I have so many cousins. And he was like, he told me Chicken got shot, and I was like, who? Because I couldn't believe it. And he told me that she got shot and she died, and I just sat there because I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what was going on, and then I started crying. I just didn't know what to do, and then I started distancing myself from everything. People, I missed school, and I asked God, I was like, why? I was so close to her, so why would you do this to me? And I couldn't do anything about it. I just couldn't do anything. It was hard, it was tough. That was a really tough time. And then one day, I told myself, I was she worked hard and I'm gonna continue her legacy. So my junior year, I started wearing number 15 because she wore number 15, and I just played hard every possession. I played hard. I thought about it, and I was like, man, I want to continue her legacy because I knew she wanted me to be as good as her. So I just worked hard. I just kept working every day in the classroom and on the court. And then the summer of my junior year, I think it had to be like around March, I played AAU for Boo Williams. And then that's where I met Evan. And I really didn't care about who I played with on the basketball court because I was so busy focused on myself that everything that he did, I was like, okay, man, this dude is good. But I heard about him, but I never really seen him play, and he's actually good. So we were talking one day, and he told me, he was like, man, you should come to Hampton Christian. And then when he told me that, I was like, I really would like to, but I gotta make a lot of sacrifices, how I'm gonna get to school every day, and how am I gonna pay my tuition, and all this other stuff. And he was like, I could try my best, but if you can't make it, then it's cool. So I was like, okay, man, I thought about it. I was like, I should actually do this. It's if I get in this school, I have to be on top of everything. I can't slack. I have to go to work right after school because I have to make the money to pay for my tuition. And so came to workouts over the summer, and then we had a team camp, and I think it was it had to be June, and it was at CNU with Hampton Christian, and me and Evan were we just clicked, everything just went perfect. And then after that, it was workouts still. And then Coach Price, he couldn't coach us anymore because he had to go down south for training. So Evan told me that he had a coach that would help us out. And then he came in the gym. And, it was Coach Brick. And, I wasn't really close to him because I didn't know him, I barely knew him. I just know that he used to coach for Kigatan. So I was like, I guess he's a good coach. And then as workouts progressed, me and him started getting closer. We started texting. And then the Virginia Wesleyan team camp came, and that's when Evan, he got Dion, Humphrey, and Bub. We had a good team, and everybody, we did good at the camp. Everybody was they wasn't expecting us to be as good as we were. So as we left that camp, I think we got knocked out in the Elite 8 out of 64 teams. There was a lot of teams there, and we made it all the way to the Elite 8. So we beat a lot of teams, and then one day, it was 2 weeks after that camp, I went home, and I was just talking to Coach Brick, and then I just laid down. And when I woke up, my phone had a lot of text messages, and it was a lot from all these college coaches that were texting me, and they found out about me through Evan and Coach Brick, and I was just confused. And I was maybe they got the wrong person, and it was so I texted all of them back, and they were all interested in me. And I texted Evan, I was like, man, you know any of these people? And he was like, yeah, I told him about you. So now you got some college interest on you. And then that's when I started thinking, it brought me back into when we first met, and I was like, I'm glad I did not regret this, because I always wanted to play college basketball, and he basically helped me out a lot to where I am now, and where I'm about to go to college to play basketball. So, and then I got here over the summer workouts, we were progressing, and then new people started coming, and I was are these people actually gonna come, or are they coming for workouts? And like, that's when I met Josh, MJ, and all of them. And then like we started progressing. And then the school started. Everybody started school except for me and Dion. And, I was texting Dion where everybody was going to school. I was like, man, you been going to school? He was like, nah. And we just were texting. And then that's when I got close to Dion. And but I eventually started going to school because my mom made me go to school. So when I got here, I couldn't reclassify like I wanted to. But then I was still happy to start school. And then when basketball season got here, I was real happy. I was like, man, it took so long to come, and then it finally got here. And then Nick came, and then everybody was just like formed one big family. And then I was like, man, everything happens for a reason. And I prayed that night, and I was like, I thank God that I actually came here because it's helping me progress spiritually, as a student. Like everything, ever since I got here, everything has been better for me. And I have really nobody to thank except God and the people who helped me get here. And it was one day I had lost my job. It was really tough for me because I started stressing out a lot. And my tuition started getting behind. And then one day, Mr. Ashworth came to me. He said, you have to pay a certain amount of money or you will be like released from the school and you would have to go back to public school. And like, it stressed me out a lot. I did not want to do that. And then so I prayed, I had everybody praying for me. And then the day I was supposed to get released from school, Mr. Ashford came to me. He knocked on the door. I was in government class. He came out and he told me somebody had paid for my tuition for the rest of the year. And Mrs. Price was with them, so and she loves me to death. Her and Coach Price love me to death. And I was like, maybe they paid for my tuition, but I never, I don't know who still paid for my tuition. They said they didn't. And then Miss Price just gave me a big hug, and I felt like a whole bunch of stress just leave me. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. After that, basketball season came. Basketball season was a lot of fun. I got closer to a lot of people, and I just had a lot of fun. And then every Friday we would have chapel, and I would actually listen, and I learned so much from chapel. It was a lot of stuff that I learned. And then I still learn it to this day. It's amazing how much stuff I learned. I never thought any of this would just be here. So every Friday, I would look forward to chapel. I still do look forward to chapel every day. I was like, man, chapel is gonna be good this week, and it never fails to amaze me how good chapel is. And then I think after basketball season ended, it was more focusing on my grades, because when basketball season got here, I was so focused on basketball that my grades started sliding, and they were just sliding down. And I paid attention to them, but I should have paid more attention to them. And it was sliding. And then basketball season ended, and then I just got back. I got right back on my grades. So I'm just trying to finish out my year strong and go to college, play basketball for another 4 years, and major in sports medicine, and just do what I can from there.
I'm MJ Ambers, and this is my second video. I guess it all starts back when I was born in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. My parents had me at a young age. Being the only child with my parents being young, we kind of moved around a lot. And then at one point we ended up moving in with my grandmother in Scarborough, which isn't really the best neighborhood to live in of Toronto. And I guess us living there was a good opportunity for me to increase my faith, because since we didn't really go to church until we moved in with my grandmother. And finally we moved out and found a house, and my parents, they didn't really get along, so there was a constant arguing and my dad shouting and all this other stuff. I remember going to bed, hearing my mom cry and all these other things. And I remember one day coming home from school, and my mom was crying on the couch, and my parents told me to sit down, and then just asked me who I wanted to live with. And being only 6, my answer was I wanted to live with both of them. But my dad told me that that's not an option. So he just pretty much told me to go to the park and just come home in 20 minutes or whatever. And then I remember coming home from school, and I saw my mom pulling out of the garage, and she told me to just get in the car. And then I remember that was the last time I saw my dad for, I think, 4 or 5 months. And I asked her where we're going, and she didn't really respond, or she kind of avoided my question. And I remember we went to this women's shelter for moms and their kids or whatever. And I remember just being there with a whole bunch of other kids and their moms, and I would have to visit my dad in like public areas like the mall or something. And we were living there for, I think, 2 months until my mom was able to find an apartment for us. And I guess a couple of years after that, my parents, they got back together, and my dad moved in with us. And they started arguing some more. And then I remember my mom told me to stay with my grandma. That I was going to be staying with my grandmother for a while, until they were able to work things out. And I guess then that's when I came to God, and my grandma introduced me to Him, and just started telling me that she was going to pray for me and everything, to pray for me and hope everything works out to my parents. And ever since then, I guess that's when I dedicated myself to Jesus. And ever since my grandma showed me to Jesus, I remember going to visit my mom, and always sitting with her and praying, hoping the situation would get better. And eventually it did start to get better, and then a few years going to high school, I moved to Maryland to go to school by myself and living with a host family, so that was a whole new experience for me. I remember summer going to football camp, and the first day I met the person that I was going to be living with was the day I moved in with them. And that was kind of hard because I didn't really know the people, so it was frustrating at times, adjusting and things like that. And it was a Catholic school I was going to, and so I thought that was a good opportunity for me to come closer to Jesus than I was before. But I felt that just brought me, or it just kind of separated me more from him. And I remember I used to get bounced around from house to house when I was by myself and things like that, and I didn't have comfort of my parents there or anything like that, so it was hard. And I remember one night I just got a phone call from my mom, and she was crying on the phone, and she was telling me how her and my dad weren't going to be living together anymore. And I remember just walking upstairs and just sat on the floor and started crying, saying how because I wasn't going to be there to try and help them out or be there for my sister. I was just worried about what was going to happen with her and how she was going to react towards everything. And I remember my mom just telling me not to worry about everything, just keep praying and God will work everything out. And then this summer I went back home. I started praying with my mom, hoping everything would work out. And then I ended up moving. My dad ended up moving to Virginia Beach, and she told me I was going to live with him. And that's when I came to Hampton Christian. And I guess coming here brought me closer to God. And I remember when I was having the meeting with Mr. Ashworth and stuff, after he told me that I'd been accepted, I guess that right then and there, after the meeting with Mr. Ashworth, when I got home, I kind of decided I was going to rededicate myself to Jesus and just start clean and be a different person and try and increase my faith with Jesus Christ. So I think Hampton Christian really helped me increase my faith with Jesus.
My name is Emily Jones, and this is my I'm Second video. So I grew up in a Christian home, raised by two parents that love the Lord. So I was always in church as a kid. That was always something very important to my family. So around the age of like 7, 6, I got saved in my mom's bedroom. She led me through the prayer of salvation. So I've definitely, known about the Lord since I was little, but things haven't always been, for me about the Lord. It started when I was actually really young, about in elementary school. In like 2nd grade, this boy touched me extremely inappropriately, and that kind of changed me a little bit because it showed me that the world wasn't innocent, and I had never been, exposed to anything like that. And so around that age, I started becoming deceitful. I started stealing a lot and lying a lot, and I don't know, I changed. And at a really young age, I started wanting to kind of like hide myself. I started dressing differently, acting differently, trying to fit in, and just found myself in that kind of situation at a really young age. When I got into middle school, it started getting really worse. My brother was always, I'm a twin, so my brother was always picked on, different things like that. He wasn't really in the popular crowd or whatever, and so my dad put it on me to be the one to take care of him. And so every time something went wrong with him, I would get blamed for it. And so I started feeling like I wasn't good enough at a very young age, and so that kind of led to me getting into a lot of bad things. I got around the wrong crowd, and I started hanging out with the wrong people. I started sneaking out, doing things behind my parents' back, lying to them, just various bunch of things. And what my parents didn't know is that I was going through a lot too. In 7th grade, I had liked this boy, and another girl liked him too, and so she turned all her friends against me, and so it became really rough to go to school. They would constantly harass me. It got to the point where I couldn't ride the bus. They tried to jump me. just a bunch of things that was going on, and my parents really had no clue that I was dealing with it because I just didn't know how to talk to them. So I became really resentful and really angry, and every time I'd go home, they'd ask me how did my brother, how was he, but they had no clue that I was going through so much myself. So that kind of pushed me away from my parents at that time, and I just felt very alone. I felt like no one was there for me, and it was just a really dark place in my life. So around 8th grade, things progressed, and so I started thinking I needed guys to fill the void, to fill whatever was empty or whatever I felt like I needed. And so I started sneaking around with guys, thinking that they could make me feel complete, I guess you could say. And I got into a lot of things. I brought alcohol to my house. I disrespected my parents completely. They had no clue that I was going through this much. And so things started getting revealed to my parents. They started finding out about a few things. And so I started getting nervous, obviously. And so one day, my mom went into my room, and she was like, Lord, please show me what I need to know about Emily. And so as soon as she prayed, she looked on the ground, and there was a journal I had that I wrote down a lot of stuff that I had done for some reason, I don't know why. And she looked down on the ground, and she read the first words on the page, and she was like, whoa, she was kind of shocked. But the Lord showed her, and the Lord showed her that I was not doing the right things. And so you would think when your parents start talking about this stuff, you're grounded for life, you're in so much trouble that it would change you, but honestly, the only thing that can change you is God, real heart change, and I just didn't have that at the time. But things got worse with my parents, especially with me and my father. It kind of tore our relationship apart because he was so hurt, and we started blaming each other, and instead of working together, we kind of stopped talking. And so it just was a very rough place in my house. There was so much tension, so much fighting, not peace at all. And so at that time, I was like, I need to change. So the summer after 8th grade, I went to a youth camp. And so when I went to a youth camp, there was these really amazing services, and God really started working on my heart. Now, things didn't change immediately, but honestly, it started putting me in the right position. God really did show me some things that I just never knew. And so when I got back, my parents set me up to volunteer at this place called the Breakthrough Center. And that's where I met a woman named Jan Roberts. And she honestly showed me what it was like to be a real Christian. Like, I had no clue. It's funny, like, you go to church all your life, you feel like you're a part of everything, but then you realize, wait, you haven't even been a real Christian your whole life. You haven't done anything for God. You've done it all for yourself. And so I realized at that point that I needed to learn what it was like to actually live your life like a Christian. So that summer, I spent time actually helping the homeless, praying for people, living out my faith, something that I had never done before. And so that really started working on my heart. Now, things weren't always easy, especially when I entered high school. I actually came to Hampton Christian. My parents would not allow me to go to public school anymore because they could not trust me. So it was a rough realizing that no one trusts you anymore. It's just, I don't know, it's hard because you go from being able to do a bunch of things to now you can't do anything because no one believes what you're saying. And so I went to Hampton Christian, and so there, it was obviously different because I'd never been around a bunch of Christians. I was in public school, so I didn't really know what it was like. So when I went to Hampton Christian, I had the mindset that now that I'm going to try to follow God, that things would be easy. And so little did I know, it's not that way. Even if you're trying to do the right things happen, and that's just a part of life. And so around this time, I still was not very complete in myself. So I thought, that I would find it still with guys, that I would find it with different things. And I was still just searching, really, for something. Obviously, it was God, but I just didn't know that's what it was at the time. And so things started getting rough. The relationship with me and my father continued to not go the way I wanted. We continued to fight all the time, continued to not mend what was broken in the past. And so that kind of put a lot of anger within me. just a lot of resentment. And so that's not a good way to start a relationship with God, when you're so resentful and you can't learn to forgive. And so around the 10th grade, there was just a lot of things going on in my life. School was pretty rough. I was very angry with a lot of things at the school. I was very angry with a lot of people in my life. And so I just started to wonder, is God for real? Because if I'm trying to do the right things, even though I'm not doing things perfect, why isn't God looking out for me? Why isn't things going the way I want? And so I thought that's the way it had to be. So with a bunch of things going on in my life, there was a situation in my 10th grade year that I just did not expect, that I did not see coming. And so that kind of started me on the path of really starting to think maybe God isn't real. I started wondering again, hey, do I really want to be a Christian? Because I was just really angry. I just thought that everything would go the way I wanted, and it didn't. And so at that time, I became pretty depressed. Honestly, I kind of went back in my shell, stopped talking to my parents again. I just didn't know what to do. And I just really started not living for God again, honestly. And so at that time, I just didn't know how to go up from there. I didn't know, I thought if I followed God, things would go good, but because it didn't, so then I was like, what do I do next? I have no clue what to do. And so around that time, I allowed my resentment and anger to kind of overtake me, and I started really dealing with a lot of other issues. I'd always, as a kid, dealt with anxiety. That had always been a part of my life. It has always been, but it started becoming even more apparent around my 10th grade year, because I guess with everything that was going on, I just started allowing things to really overtake my life. And so that was one of the things that started really overcoming me. And I just didn't know how to handle it. I started becoming anxious all the time, nervous all the time. As a kid, I was always afraid of failing. That's something I've always been afraid of. I always felt like if I tried something and failed, then it was worthless, and that I couldn't do anything and not succeed. That was always an issue for me. That's something I just never wanted to happen. And so that really started to overtake my life to the point where it kept me from doing a lot of things around 10th grade and 11th. It held me back from doing things because I was always afraid I wouldn't be good enough, and I was always, anxious and didn't want to deal with the anxiety, so I just wouldn't do it. And so I just really started feeling alone again, honestly. I really didn't know what to do, and so around 11th grade, I was still going on these trips every year. They're called NISM, and it's a mission trip where you go to New York and you go help homeless people, and you go preach the gospel, and you go live out your faith. And so I've done that since I was in 9th grade, and that was something I did every year and was something very important to me. And so around 11th grade, I was really needing something to really get me back on track. There was a lot of things that happened to me. There was a lot of things going on, and I just didn't know how to handle it. And I didn't look to God for that peace. I didn't look to God for the answer, and that was the problem. I tried to look within myself, and myself wasn't enough at the time. And so I went to New York, and I started, living out my faith. I started talking to people about God. I started preaching, praying for people, and that kind of started showing me something. It started showing me something that, I didn't really feel before. It started showing me that we're all hurting people, and, even though that I'm going through all this stuff, if I just look to God, He can make me feel complete. He can fill this void within me. And so honestly, around my 11th grade year, something just really clicked for me. Honestly, I started seeing people for who they really were. I started loving people. I started loving people that I had issues with. I started forgiving people. And I started trying to see the best in people like God sees people. And I don't know what happened, but for some reason, that really changed me, that trip to NISM. And there was also a lot of good chapels at Hampton Christian that honestly made me really want to start living my faith for real. And so to this day, I'm just so thankful, because last year, which was my 11th grade year, because I'm a senior this year, I just really started taking God seriously. And when you take God seriously, it honestly can change your life. And so for me, what I want to tell you guys is that even though it's hard and you try to be a Christian and things don't go the way you plan, things will never go the way you plan. But honestly, if you follow God, He will show you what plans He has for your life. And you'll never regret it. And that's just something I'm so excited about. And God honestly gave me a love for people. And that's just something I want to do with my life, help people. And so I cannot be more thankful for everything that God's done. As you can see in my past, that things weren't always easy, but things will never be. So just put God first and He'll show you what to do.
My name is Evan Dugood, and this is my testimony, my I Am Second video. I was brought up and raised in a Christian household. In first grade, I attended Hampton Christian. It was my first ever time being in a Christian school environment. It was good. And I remember second grade, I had a teacher named Miss Cross, currently named Miss Brown now. I lost my grandma at the time on my dad's side of the family, who watched me and raised me as well growing up. My school year at Hampton Christian, the teacher asked how was my family situation doing. I said it wasn't doing too good, and that they're most likely going to get divorced. And she said that she'd be praying for me, and that was the last time I ever saw her. And to this day, I've never seen her again. And so over the summer, my sister came to town, and it was her birthday, and it was at the church. There was a little argument going on with my parents, and that same night, my parents sat me and my sister down in the living room and had some unbearable news for us, and they told me and my sister that they were going to get a divorce. And I was just shocked. You know, I feel like life just stopped and everything was going into an end. So 2 weeks later, my dad told me he was going to move to Oklahoma. And it's crazy. At the time, I didn't know how to take it. Because, you know, the dad who raised you, the dad who raised you since birth, who held you in his hands, said that he was going to move somewhere else and like not be with you. And that just really hurt. I love my dad. I still love him to this day. And so it was a Tuesday morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning. My dad, he woke me up. He packed his car and said that day he was going to Oklahoma. And I couldn't believe it. It was unbearable. And it was sad saying goodbye to my dad. And I remember just crying in the driveway, watching just the cars drive down the street, thinking that might be the last time I ever seen him in my life. And I just remember I couldn't go to sleep that day or for weeks. It was terrible. I remember the next day he called me and said everything's gonna be all right. And at that time in my life, I felt like everything's not gonna be all right. You know, I was a little bit mad at God, a little frustrated with Him, even though at the time I knew I wasn't supposed to be. But I just had so much anger that was building up. Then a month later, it was just me and my mom in the house. My mom suggested or told me that we were gonna live with my grandma, who lives in a rough neighborhood. It's a terrible neighborhood, actually. Downtown Newport News, 21st Street. And I did not want to do that. At the time, for about a good month, it was just me and my mom living with my grandma. At the time, there was 5 other people in the house too. And the house wasn't that big. So for a month, me and my mom stayed with my grandma, but after a month, my mom didn't start. She stopped staying with me and my grandma. And I was wondering where is she going at night, where is she sleeping, and she never told me. So at my grandma's house, I didn't have a room, really. I slept on the floor a lot, or a cot. And I really had no privacy. Everything All my clothes were just everywhere. It was terrible. I had to sell a lot of my shoes, a lot of my clothes, and it would just sleep on the floor for. It was terrible. It was a terrible experience. So during the summer, I was going to have to go to a new school because my dad took me to and from the school each and every day. But I couldn't go to Hampton Christian anymore because of the drive, and my dad wasn't there. So suggestions was brought up: should I go to Hampton Christian Academy, or a public school? At the time, I didn't want to go back to Hampton Christian because I feel like I was mistreated there, and everything about it when I was there I didn't like. But something down in my spirit told me to come back, and so I just listened, even though I didn't want to. So I came back to Hampton Christian my 10th grade year. But a month before school started at Hampton Christian, I lost a good friend, a cousin of mine, named Jaquan Brown. He was murdered out Shell Road, and just the news waking up on January 2nd. The news that I had on my phone was just unbearable, and I was just crying. I felt like I had even more anger built up in me, and I was just so mad at God. And so I started school at Hampton Christian a month after that, and when I walked in, it felt different. It was at the time, it was a struggle for me just to even walk anywhere because I was so mad because of divorce. I lost my cousin and stuff like that. And then a couple months later, I lost my aunt and my uncle. And so this death and struggle just like all surrounded me, and like I didn't know what to do. And it was just taking a hold of me. I had so much anger, so much bitterness built inside of me at people, at God, because of what was going on in my life. And I didn't know how to take it at the time. So basketball season, my 10th grade year was starting up. It was my first really time to be on varsity, starting wise. And the season, it was different because just the players and everything we had, it felt different. But it was a successful season for me individually, but as a team, we didn't do so good. Then I remember losing my the last game of the season of my sophomore year and saying I never want this feeling again. So during the summer, I asked some friends to transfer to Hampton Christian to help me out and grow spiritually. Because at the time, Hampton Christian was actually thriving and getting better as a school. And I noticed that, and it made me change my perspective as a person to things around me. So my junior year, I had there was two friends that transferred. Their names were Big Mike and Khalil, and you know they were great friends. They helped me. They loved the school, and I appreciated them both. And that year, my junior year, I hit my 1,000 points, and I made all conference that year as well as I did my sophomore year. And I see things were changing in my life, and also for the good. I still have some bitterness in my spirit and some anger in my life. One day, me and my mom, had a little argument about where she lives and stuff like that. So it turned out not too good. Our relationship kind of became distant and we became not too fond of each other. But God brought us all, me and my mom, relationship back to where it's supposed to be. And now, during Christmas time this past year, we got our first house, which was really a blessing because I slept on the floor of my grandma's house for about 2 years and a half, and it was terrible. I hated it, but at the same time, I was also trusting God through it. So during the summer of this past summer, which was going into my senior year, I asked some friends to come to my school, Hampton Christian Academy, to thrive and play basketball. And at the time, some of them were kind of hesitant because they didn't really know anything about Hampton Christian. But as I talked to them, I told them about the school, how it's a great school, how the teachers they care for you and they treat you like they're your son, and they want the best for you. And once they heard that, they were like, I want that. What you have, Evan? I was like, then come on. Because all the friends that I brought in, which were 8 transfers, their situations at home are similar to mine, and they all wanted somebody to love them and show them that they appreciate them. And when they came here, they felt that immediately, that it was a great impact. And while they were here, we had a chapel service. It was during Spiritual Infants Week. A couple of my friends experienced God like they never had, including myself. I felt even more connected with God. And seeing my friends who were doing terrible at first, but now are starting to have a connection with God and grow is an awesome feeling. God can do anything for anybody. And at the time, during the Spiritual Infants Week, the power just moved, and I feel like as a school we grew together, and everybody's perspective changed about the school to impact your surroundings, not just go day to day, just walk the average life, but impact your surroundings no matter where you are in life. And through my journey, as currently I'm right now, basketball season just ended, unfortunately, short of my goal, winning a state championship for my school and giving an even bigger, better name for my school. But I tried my best in everything I did. I hope people remember that. But we lost the state quarterfinal game the last Tuesday in February, this past month, in 2015. And I remember just playing my last game at Hampton Christian. It took a toll on me because I put a lot in the program, and not just the program, but into school and also people's lives, because I know that people are struggling with thoughts of suicide like I was, thoughts of anger, thoughts of bitterness like I was, and people don't know how to handle it nowadays. And it's affecting a younger generation, my generation, and people need help. And so I was wanting to help people get through it. And so while I was playing my last home game here, the last a minute left in the fourth quarter, just the memories were just coming around in my head, and how my first game, my sophomore year, with at the time with Coach Harris at the time, how he said that everything's gonna be all right with my family situations, that we're gonna grow, we're gonna get through this, and we're gonna excel in the school. And this word just stuck in my head. And then all the memories of the homecoming games, all the hugs after the game, all the love that has been given to me, it took a toll, and I immediately started to cry on the court because I knew that was my last home game ever in my life at Hampton Christian, and I would never get the chance or opportunity to play in a real game like that ever again. And so as tears were just rolling out my eyes the last game, there's people come to me, hugging me, and were crying with me, and it showed a lot. After what I saw, that people crying with me, it shows that they actually care for me, and they really wanted the best for me, and it shows that we are a family, and that if you're gonna cry, we're gonna cry too. And that just really spoke out to me, and says that my school is really there for me, the good and bad. Even all the mistakes I make, they're still there, they still love me. And it's not just me, it's like everybody. And I really wanted that state championship, but I didn't get it. But the last 15 seconds of the game, as I was crying, I bowed my head, and I was like, God, I trust you. I felt this feeling of pain before, but the only difference is I'm giving you glory in this pain. And those exact words came out my mouth, and that's really bold for me to say, being so young. But I remember just crying, then hearing the final buzzer just go off, and realize it's all over. But my high school journey is all over. But my life story is nowhere near over. And I was trying to keep a good perspective, and it was hard. Something we have to grow, have to get through. And I'm thankful for all the people in my lives who have touched me, helped me, helped mature me, helped grow me. And in school, I felt so connected with all the teachers, students. I had everybody was like my little sister, little brother almost, and most teachers were my moms. I thank Mr. Ashford for giving me the opportunity to excel and helping my friends also, and just helping me in life, giving me advice. That means a lot to me. And for anybody who's out there struggling with anger, suicide, or addictions, or whatever it is, just know that no matter where you are in life, God is there. He's faithful, and if you cry out, He's there. He is there. He's present, and the evidence of His faithfulness is all around us. And I see that day in and day out. There's days where you're going to mess up. There's days where you're going to make mistakes, but your mistakes does not define who you are, and neither does your past. And so I would say to anybody, just keep moving forward and keep crying to God, no matter where you are. If you're struggling, just cry out to Him. He's there. And a verse that really, it's like a life verse to me, that really helped me through whatever I was going through, was John 14:12. And it says, "Greater things shall you do with God," which means God is with you, and with Him you can do great things, the greater things with Him, to impact people who feel lesser of themselves. And another verse is Romans 8:28. "For we know that all things work together for the good of those who love Him, and are called according to His purpose." And if you acknowledge that you love Him, you're alright. You're gonna be good, and all things are work for the good of those who love Him. That's all things, including good and bad things. So wherever you are in life, and at a good stage or a bad stage, you're covered. Don't worry. Always have a smile on your face, and just know that you're going to meet people around you that are struggling with the same struggles you struggle with. And if you find those people who are, y'all can grow together and get through it together for the glory of God. And so another big reason, or a big tool that I got through this, was a pastor named Stephen Furtick. I listen to his sermons about every day, and they encourage me, and they give me like hope. They give me great perspective. They change my surroundings. They don't let your surroundings change you, and that you have to speak peace in your situation, even if you don't have peace. You have to keep speaking, no matter what. Hampton Christian Academy, it's sad to say goodbye, but I love you guys with all my heart, and I hope my legacy and my level of impact on people's lives will just be roamed around the campus, and that I love you guys with all my heart, and I represent you guys every day, and that years to come will be greater and greater and greater. And I believe in God that the school is getting awesomer and awesomer. It is. I thank you for all the opportunities and all the grace you guys have given me. It means a lot. Love you guys. Remember, never give up.
Hello, my name is Hannah Chelvick, and this is my I Am Second video. So when I was younger, I grew up in the church. I knew Christ from an early age, but when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I was diagnosed with leukemia, which is a form of blood cancer, and just going through that all was really hard on me and my family, and it took me a while to just recover from like the trauma of going through something like that. And for a long time, I kind of asked myself why God would let me go through something like that. And I kind of blamed Him for it, which was really wrong of me, because I know that if God hadn't been in the situation, there's no way I would have come out alive. And you just have to use those things that you go through, even if they're really difficult, to praise God later and just trust Him through it. So another thing that I've struggled with, and I'm still currently struggling with, would be self-image. And with that, there comes a lot of fear and anxiety about academics, about the way I look, just about how I act in front of other people. And it really hinders me just in so many ways, because it keeps me from meeting new people. It keeps me from having like friendships or relationships with people. And it really just is not good for me. But I have to remind myself that even though there's times when I feel like I'm not good enough, I just have to remember that I'm worth something to God, and that's the only thing that really matters. So if anybody else struggles with that type of thing, just feel free to talk to me or talk to somebody else, one of your close friends, someone you can trust.
is MJ Ambers, and I am second.
My name is Hannah Shelvick, and I am second.
My name is Cody Payton, and I am second.
My name is Josh Lewis, and I'm second.
My name is Donzel Dillon, and I am second.
My name is Riley Barefoot, and I am second.
My name is Emily Jones, and I am second.
My name is Evan Dugood, and I am second.